Hello there, everybody. So we are getting to the end of our informative writing unit. So last week you wrote your rough drafts. If for some reason you did not turn in your rough draft or you did not write your rough draft, please make sure that you do that this week. It is very, very important. And let's take a look at lesson 15 and 16. So lesson 15, we're going to be looking at revising. So now that you've written your rough draft, it's time to revise it and make improvements in your writing style. So you can, if you printed your essay out, you can write directly on it to make some revisions and then make changes, retype it and make changes, or you can just make changes in the Word document. So what you will need to do is read through your essay a couple of times, read it out loud too. Don't just read it in your head. Sometimes our brains can kind of fix some of the little mistakes that we make when we write, but when we read it out loud, we can hear it and we can hear if our words are making sense. And we'll use the checklist to make changes as you need to. So the first part of our checklist is our introduction. So first of all, make sure you have an introduction. And then there's 3 things that you want to make sure that you have. Make sure that you included a strong opening sentence. So that's like a strong hook or a strong lead to grab the attention of your readers. The second thing you want to make sure you have in your introduction is that you introduced your topic clearly. You didn't just start talking about it, you introduced your topic. And finally, you want to make sure that you referred to your subtopics. You didn't just introduce your topic and then jump into a body paragraph. Make sure that you introduce those subtopics too. The second thing that you want to look for in your informative writing essay is you want to look at your body paragraphs. You want to make sure that you have body paragraphs. You should have one for each of your subtopics. So for each body paragraph, you want to make sure that you started each paragraph with a topic sentence that states your main idea, tells your reader what your subtopic is. You want to make sure that you used supporting details with examples. Those details might be something from a text that you read or from a video that you watched or some kind of quote. And you want to make sure that you provided an explanation for each of those details. So for example, if you used a quote, you didn't just give me a quote and nothing else. You have to tell me why that's important or tell me what it explains. Tell me about it. Give me some explanation. So you want to look through that checklist for each of your body paragraphs. Remember that each of your body paragraphs should be focusing on one subtopic. And then your conclusion. Of course, you want to make sure you have a conclusion. That's important. And then you want to look at the checklist for the conclusion. So you want to see that you started with a transition. We'll talk about some transitions in lesson 16. You want to make sure that you restated your topic and your subtopics. So you're kind of putting that bottom bun on your hamburger. And you want to make sure that you ended with a final thought or a call to action. Remember, we talked about this when we talked about conclusions. And then finally, you want to look at just your overall writing style. Just look overall at the things that you wrote. Do your sentences and paragraphs flow and make sense? Like I said, read it out loud, or even have somebody else read it out loud. Mom, dad, brother, sister, grandma, grandpa, anybody. Have them read it out loud and tell you, does this make sense? Does it flow? Should I move paragraphs around? Do I need to add or delete any words? Maybe you wrote the same word twice. I know I've done that sometimes. I will start writing and then I'll look away for a second and come back and I'll start that sentence over again mid-sentence. So look and see if you need to add or delete any words. Make sure that everything makes sense. Do I need to move or change the placement of any words or sentences? Are your sentences in an order that makes sense? Would it make sense to move one of them around? Read through it and see. Can I substitute any words to vary my word choice and add meaning? So while you're reading, do you notice that you are using the same couple of words over and over? Things like maybe clearly or obviously or very or really. Are you using some words over and over again? If you notice that, see if you can find a synonym or another way that you can say that. Did I vary my sentence style? Are all of my sentences really short and choppy? Are they all really long run-on sentences? Or do I have some variety there? And what transitions can I add? Like I said, we're going to talk about transitions in just a minute. The other thing that you want to make sure you do, and I know it's not written on this page, but you want to make sure that you go into Canvas and look at the feedback that I left you. I took a lot of time to read through your essays, and I really like what I saw. But make sure that you read through the feedback that I left you. You don't need to take everything that I said and do it, but I left some questions for some of you. Maybe, can you explain this more? What does this mean? Sometimes when we're writing about something that we know a lot about or that we like, we forget that not everybody knows these things. All right, I made the example of, in my essay, when I was writing about roller derby, that if I started talking about a blocker, I know what that means because I play roller derby. But you might not know what that means because you don't. So you want to make sure that somebody who doesn't understand your topic as well as you do understands what you're talking about. So make sure you take a look at that feedback that I left for you. If there's any questions that I asked you, think about that. See if you can add any pieces to it. See if you can add any extra details. All right, let's take a look at lesson 16 really quick. So lesson 16 is adding transitions. So one way that you can revise your writing and vary your sentences is to add transitions. This is a list, or these are lists of some transitions. These are not all transitions. There are a ton of transitions. But take a look at the list and see if there's any transitions that you could add to different sentences throughout your essay. When you're choosing a transition to add to a sentence, make sure to choose one that makes sense and that fits the style and structure of your sentence. Right? So if you're writing a concluding sentence, maybe at the end of a paragraph, you might not start with first of all, right? Or you might not start with similarly. You would want to kind of start with something that is concluding or sequencing. You may also want to change the structure or wording of a sentence to make a transition fit. So if you really like a transition, you might need to change the structure of your sentence. Your sentences should flow nicely from one to the next. So one way to check for flow is, like I said before, read it out loud. Or if you use Google, you can even do it with Google Translate. You can copy and paste your essay into Google Translate and just translate it from English to English and listen to Google read it out loud for you. You may be able to do that as well in Google Docs, but I'm not 100% positive on how to do that. But that's an option. You can also have somebody else read it out loud too. But let's take a look at some of these transitions. So some transitions for sequencing. So this is usually when we're writing a story, but there are some that we can use in our informative essays too. So things like to start first of all, ways to start out a paragraph, then next, second, maybe transitioning to another thought, and finally, lastly, would be an ending. And some transitions to add to an idea. Maybe you are telling me an explanation. Things like also, additionally, in addition, in comparison, although, therefore, as a result, another reason, in other words. So if you're adding maybe an explanation, that might be a good transition to transition to that explanation or to transition to another detail. To cite evidence. So if you're citing evidence from a text, from a video, a quote, you can use transitions like for example, or in fact, or according to the text, or even according to the author, or according to and putting somebody's name. And some transitions for concluding. So for writing a concluding sentence in a body paragraph or for your conclusion paragraph. Things like in conclusion, to summarize, as you can see, all in all, overall, to sum it up, things like that. Again, like I said, there are a ton of different transitions. These are not the only ones, and you are not just limited to these. You can go online and find a list of transition words. You can talk to mom or dad or brother or sister or grandma or grandpa or anybody that can help you, right? Or if you get stuck, you can always talk to me or to Miss Sally. We both have really great resources that we can share with you. So please make sure that you read through these and see if you can add any to your writing. So now for your assignment for this week, what you're going to be turning in. So these 2 pages, you're not turning these in. You do not need to turn these 2 pages in to me. What you do need to turn in is your revised essay. Make sure that there are some changes made, okay? When I look at your revised essay, it shouldn't look exactly the same as your rough draft. There should be some revisions. So these 2 pages are just for your reference. You do not need to turn them back into me. It would be a good idea to, on the checklist page, the revision checklist, to actually check things off while you read, or just make a mental checklist and check things off in your brain as you're reading your essay. But you don't need to turn these 2 pages in. What you are turning in is your revised essay. Make sure that it is revised. Try not to turn in just your rough draft again. See if you can make any revisions, even if it's just 1 or 2. All right? If you run into any problems or you have questions or you get stuck on anything or you need help with revising, or if you have questions about any of the feedback that I left for you or about editing or revising your introduction or a body paragraph or anything like that, please let me know or let Miss Sally know. We are both here. We are happy to help, and we would love to. So if you get stuck on anything, please let us know. Alrighty, so that is all that I have for you. Since this was recorded today, I'm not going to do a secret word. But again, if you have questions, get stuck, need help, please let us know. We are here. We are happy to help. Alrighty, have a fantastic rest of your day, and I cannot wait to read your revised essays.